Employers, what are your craziest employee stories? Story 1. The gift wrapped fiasco at 𝗘𝗠𝗣𝗟𝗢. I worked at a new 𝗘𝗠𝗣𝗟 branch that opened in my old town years ago. It was rough at first, with employees overworked and a high turnover rate, later leading to a lawsuit against that branch. When I started, there was a blonde woman, let's call her Beth, who was excessively enthusiastic, annoyingly so for both employees and customers. She was also a compulsive liar and often left early mid-shift for who knows what. When they fired her, she returned with a purple gift, wrapped with a white ribbon, supposedly an apology for the manager. She dropped it off quickly, saying she was busy, and left. The package reeked of perfume, but she seemed unhinged, so no one commented. The department manager opened it near the registers, and inside was human feces. She'd done her business in a box and gifted it to her boss. Story 2. The drug-fueled shoplifting scheme at the pharmacy. As a pharmacy supervisor, I once saw an employee let someone walk out with hundreds of dollars in products without intervening. Minutes later, he went to collect shopping carts. I was reviewing the security footage while on the phone with the store manager when another cashier alerted me he'd been gone for 15 minutes. He returned with one cart, visibly high. As a supervisor, not the manager, my hands were tied, so I sent him home and got someone to cover. Later he called me, his sister's my best friend, ranting about hating snitches and how people should mind their own business. The next day the loss prevention officer and my manager were there. He was fired for letting friends steal cartloads of products, then collecting carts to get paid in meth. He thought he had a master plan to stick it to the system. It was sad to watch. He later went to jail but completed rehab successfully and has since apologized sincerely, doing much better now. Story 3. The grill collapse at the Charlotte kitchen. Years ago, I was head chef at a place in Charlotte, North Carolina, where drug use in the kitchen was common and often tolerated. One line cook showed up heavily under the influence, explained his situation, apologized, and asked to step out and return in better shape. Things were calm, prep was done, so I gave him an extra hour. He returned 45 minutes later, calmer, no longer shaking, with a smile. He was one of my best cooks, so I was glad not to discipline him. Dinner service started fine, but then I saw him across the kitchen, seemingly dozing off at the grill. He insisted he was okay. 15 minutes later, he collapsed, face and arm hitting the grill, unconscious. I ran over, pushed him off. He was a mess. When he hit the floor, he woke up, mumbled, "Oh shit, chef, can I go to the hospital?" The smell was awful. We closed the restaurant at 7 p.m. on a Friday, opened all doors and windows, cleaned everything, and replaced the grill plates. While ordering supplies at 10 p.m., he returned, bandaged, saying, "Chef, can I help?" Stunned, I listened as he explained he'd gone to his dealer's, snorted painkillers to calm down, and passed out. He added, "I'm good, they gave me morphine, I can still work, and I'm an idiot, so don't worry about workers' comp, I just want my job." 2 weeks later, he returned sober and hasn't touched drugs or alcohol since, as far as I know. His hospital bills were covered, but he got no paid leave. One of the best employees and craziest guys I've met. Story 4. The painted cat at the junkyard. We own a junkyard where stray cats often hang around, some becoming office pets we feed and take to the vet. One cat was a favorite, even among the toughest guys who shared their lunches with it. A real jerk employee decided he didn't like the cat and spray painted it head to toe. When it wandered into the office, my husband, the boss, went ballistic, cleaned the cat as best he could, then stormed the workshop, yelling until a new employee admitted seeing Jen paint the cat. My husband wanted to punch him but called the police instead, pressed animal cruelty charges, and fired him on the spot. The guy had the audacity to file for unemployment, claiming wrongful termination. He was denied multiple times but kept appealing, eventually winning full benefits at the state's highest review level because our handbook didn't explicitly prohibit painting cats or illegal workplace activities, something we thought was obvious. He got his comeuppance, though, serving a year in jail for fleeing police while drunk. The cat lived several more years, cared for by an employee who fed it every Sunday, finding it dead one day, peacefully in its blanket-filled box. Story 5. Bob's chaos at the manufacturing plant. Bob lasted 2 weeks, which was 2 weeks too long. During onboarding, he questioned safety rules, refusing eye protection and closed-toe shoes because our climate-controlled plant was too hot. He used a Bluetooth earpiece, answering calls during orientation, and when told phones were only allowed on breaks, he said he was doing business. I, the plant's general manager, decided he had to go, but HR and the company president insisted on giving him a fair chance after a 3-hour debate. Bob was untrainable, tasked with balancing material in a centrifuge per posted diagrams. After a full day of training and supervision, I left him for 5 minutes to use the bathroom. Metal clanging started. I ran to shut off the machine, finding it loaded incorrectly. When asked why, he said, "It takes too long to do it right." No one else wanted to fire him, so I spent the next week babysitting him until I had to do my actual job. Within half an hour, he damaged the machine with another bad load. I sent him to review diagrams in the meeting room while I prepped the backup machine. 20 minutes later, he was gone, not in the bathroom or anywhere. I noticed someone in the president's office. Odd, since the president was out and only the office manager and I had access. The office manager was at her desk, so I checked and found Bob watching explicit videos on the president's computer. I fired him on the spot, later confirmed by HR and the president, who reviewed the browser history. Bob didn't know incognito mode. He filed a wrongful termination claim with Canada's HR and Development Department. Story 6. Tom's secret hideout at the retail store. As a supervisor at a high-end retail store prepping for its grand opening, I hired Tom, a guy in his early 20s. Over weeks, I noticed he vanished during shifts after getting tasks. One day, I sent him to restock with a cart of merchandise, but after 20 minutes, while others returned multiple times, he was gone. As the only supervisor, I knew he wasn't reassigned. A coworker said he was probably in his hideout, revealing Tom had built a secret spot behind old shelves, stocked with a stolen thermal blanket, pillow, and store food, where he spent most shifts for over a month, popping out every 30 to 45 minutes to be seen. It was his third or fourth infraction, so we fired him. He ripped his shirt, screamed, "Why?" repeatedly, cried, pounded his chest, and spat on our windows as we escorted him out. He was a total jerk, constantly harassing female staff, including me, trying to sell drugs and stealing. I don't get how he didn't understand why he was fired. Story 7. Yuri's window leap at the shipping company. As a shipping manager at a large company, I hired a hard-working ex-Russian military guy who was a bit off. One day he didn't show up or call. The next day he called from the hospital, sounding drugged. I visited since we were sort of friends, and his entire right side was black with severe bruises. He explained he'd been partying at his 5th-floor apartment, arguing with a friend, apparently typical for them, over never keeping his word. He said, "If I said I'd jump out that window, I'd do it." His friend dared him, so Yuri ran and jumped, landing in the parking lot. He spent over a month in the hospital just to prove a point. He quit, and I didn't hear from him until a year later when he called drunk, saying I was Jesus. Story 8. The guitar case breakdown at Gethsemane Central. At Gethsemane Central, a store with high turnover, 70 new hires in 2 years, one guy lasted less than a day. After introductions, with all registers busy, we sent him to the warehouse to learn the computer system and help with storage. He clearly struggled with literacy, so the warehouse manager gave him a box cutter to break down cardboard. An hour later, he was missing. They found him atop a warehouse shelf, 4 meters up, sitting among guitar cases, softly singing, smiling, crying, and self-harming with the cutter. I didn't witness it, but the general manager and assistants were called, and soon sirens blared in the parking lot. The short-tempered GM was heard yelling in his office, though I don't know with whom. We never saw the guy again. Story 9. The MMO chaos in the video game industry. I worked in the video game industry years ago when it was barely a step above tour assistant and parental shame. Our small, independent MMO company, later acquired by a larger one, hired anyone willing to relocate with some game knowledge and customer service experience. Baristas, convenience store clerks, even a waiter who served us well once. A good attitude was enough. One guy got hired for reporting a game-breaking duplication bug. He was incredibly dedicated, first in, last out, until we realized he was sleeping under his desk, leading to a rule mandating everyone go home after shifts. Another employee, fired for unrelated reasons, defecated in the customer service area in protest. Clean up on aisle 3. The best story was the keymaster. A guy from the East Coast, hired with his girlfriend or met her here I forget, was a bit unstable but eager. Assigned to phone support instead of in-game moderation. He did okay until his supervisor caught him generating in-game currency to pay his landlord, who played the MMO. All GM actions were logged, exposing his cheating. In the customer service manager's office, shown the evidence, he hyperventilated, rocked in his chair, and slammed his head back, hitting a whiteboard's metal edge, splitting his scalp. Blood sprayed as the manager tried to calm him. He threw himself to the floor, banging his head, muttering he was an idiot, begging to keep his job. Someone called the police. He briefly calmed, pulled out his keys as if to leave, but stabbed one into his chest repeatedly. The manager prepared to restrain him, but he stopped, threw the keys at a supervisor's face and left, moving back east. A new in-game character, 𝗘𝗠𝗣𝗟𝗬𝗘𝗥𝗦 the Keymaster, appeared. Many of us keep keys by our monitors now just in case. It was a wild workplace. Many from that era now hold big roles in top gaming companies, a baptism by fire. Someone once stole an entire computer piece by piece. RAM, keyboard, graphics card, slowing it down until their roommate on our security team found the parts under their bathroom sink and turned them in. It's a miracle we weren't all fired out of spite. Story 10. The absurd returns at Albertsons at 16, desperate for a sports bike, I got a job at Albertsons supermarket. 3 days in, they put me in customer service, a role meant for 21-year-olds with no training. I barely knew the computer system or return policies. A few hours in, no disasters, until Gary tried returning 25-year-old, worn-out New Balance shoes. We didn't sell shoes, so I politely suggested he was at the wrong store, thinking he might be confused. He got furious, demanding a manager. My kind Hispanic boss looked at me like I'd launched a nuclear strike, gave him a $45 store credit, and accepted the shoes, scolding me that the policy was to accept all returns for customer satisfaction, even items we didn't sell. For a week, I accepted everything, normal returns but also absurd ones like a ham left in a Florida car for a week, with grinning customers exploiting the policy. I noticed the same 8 or 9 people returning random garage junk to fund their groceries. I snapped when a guy tried returning hardware tools, complaining I wasn't giving him his claimed purchase amount. I demanded he show me where we sold tools. He called my boss and I quit. Albertsons closed 3 months later, no surprise. It was the only time I quit or was close to being fired. Story 11. The knife-sharpening deserter at the gas station. During training at a gas station, the first hour was busy but normal. When it slowed, we reviewed routines. The trainee pulled out an illegally long knife and a sharpening stone, starting to sharpen it. I told him to take it to his car immediately and never bring it back. Carrying an illegal concealed weapon was grounds for instant termination if security or management saw. He said, A or K, walked to his car, supposedly to store it, and drove off, never returning. Story 12. The threatening boyfriend in the office chapel at my current job. We hired a woman who seemed miraculous, mastering computers and organizing her routine by day 2, learning faster than anyone recently. Then her boyfriend called the school where she was assigned, demanding, "Whose manager's name? Why's his name in my woman's phone? Put her on now or I'll drag her out." The school shut down for safety. She was called to the admin building, Asked about her boyfriend since authorities wanted to press charges. She casually said, "Don't worry, he gets like that. Please don't press charges, he'll go back to prison for violating parole." She was fired immediately. I don't know if charges were filed. We hired a middle-aged woman fluent in English and Spanish, dressed in slightly noticeable religious cultural attire. Her religiosity didn't interfere on day 1. On day 2, the school director, absent for personal reasons, returned to find her office packed into boxes, replaced with religious images, statues, and decorations like a chapel. They found the employee in a staff bathroom, crying and screaming, "Only God can help me now." Police escorted her out. I don't know what happened to her. Story 13. The Ardilla attack at the construction site. I had an eccentric hippie employee in construction, good at his job. One morning he called, saying he'd be late, with shouting and chaos in the background, then hung up. I give leeway if you show up, are on time, sober, and don't ask for advances weekly. 2 hours later he arrived with scratches on his face and arms. He explained he was sleeping when his cat brought a gift, a not quite dead squirrel. When the cat dropped it on his bed, the squirrel went berserk, attacking him and trashing the room as he called me. I laughed so hard I cried while driving him to the hospital, picturing him in underwear, long frizzy hair flying, chasing a half-dead, terrified squirrel as his wife screamed. Even now, writing this, I'm tearing up from laughter. You had to be there.